The Boston Red Sox are in for a massive offseason. As we all know, we desperately need help at the pitching position as well as more right-handed bats. But now with a surplus of talent in the outfield, it leaves us at a crossroads. I'm here to break down all of the moving parts on this episode of Red Sox Digest. So let's not waste any time and get right to it and break down the massive moves being made in Boston. Now, we don't know for sure if actual moves are going to be made, but let's just say there seems like there's a lot of possible options on the board for this Red Sox team. And again, there's going to have to be massive decisions made going forward into this offseason, specifically at the outfield position. And again, it's not one specifically. And again, we're going to break down this article written by Patrick McCovey titled Red Sox Reunion with $90 million Star May Happen on One Condition. Now, the reunion is a bit interesting because it's a player we already have, and it's Tyler O'Neill. Now, Tyler O'Neill played a lot better this past season than honestly expected from a lot of the Red Sox media and really just the fan base, in the sense that he had 31 RBIs for this Red Sox team. Now, that shouldn't be a surprise if you know what Tyler O'Neill looks like. He's probably the biggest human being in the entire league. Yes, he's only 5'11". He's not the biggest in the sense of height, if you will, but in the sense of stature and physique, we all know his dad was a bodybuilder. He was very, very, very good at bodybuilding, and it's fair to say Tyler O'Neill definitely got his genetics, and he sure as hell got his strength. Again, 31 home runs is very, very nice to see from a left fielder, and a guy who really, when you look at in the sense of stature, doesn't really give off the idea of a massive power hitter. And again, we'll break down the stats from Tyler O'Neill more in depth in just a second, but let's break down some of these quotes from the article from Mr. McCovey. He goes on to say, if the Red Sox want to bring back, if the Red Sox want to bring back, they likely would have to trade at least one other outfielder. Boston has a surplus of talent and likely could get back some pitching in a deal. It wouldn't make sense to bring O'Neill back in the and complicate playing time further without a trade. Now, what does McCovey mean by this? Well, wrong button. If you look at our depth chart, again, a surplus of talent. And again, it might not seem that way based off of how the season ended, but again, Jarren Duran is not going anywhere. He's going to be really the star of this Red Sox team alongside Rafael Devers going forward due to the young upside as well as just the flat-out potential this youngster has. Obviously, he can steal bags. He's a great defender due to his speed in the outfield and the ability to cover ground. And we saw the bat really come alive this past season, not only hitting for average, but again, leading the league in doubles as well as at bats. He is very, very good at what he does, and thankfully, he's the leadoff hitter for the Boston Red Sox, and he should be for years to come. I don't think he's going to be one of these players look to be traded. Now, for the rest of the players, we have Weiler Abreu as well as Rafaela. We know Rafaela can play a surplus of positions, whether it be in the diamond or outside in the actual outfield at all three positions due to his speed and his ability to cover ground, just like Jarren Duran. And again, the young upside and the young potential coming from not even just Rafaela, but as well as Abreu. These are two very, very young players with a whole lot of upside, and because of that, I don't know if Boston is going to want to trade them unless the trade package coming back is something they flat out cannot turn down. And again, when it comes to starting rotations in the league, in this MLB, we need more help. There's no other way around it. Obviously, on paper, we have a few good pieces. Fitz is a very young guy. He was in a rookie season this past year. And again, obviously, Brayan Bello is a very young piece as well with a lot of upside. But then we look at Cutter Crawford, Nick Pivetta. These guys are getting much older. And let's just be honest, they're not the cream of the crop when it comes to starting pitchers in the MLB. They're great rotation pieces at times, but again, not sure if you want to go into a ALCS game with Cutter Crawford on the mound starting that game for you guys. It's just, you're going to have to put so much pressure on the offense. I'm not sure how things are really going to play out for this Boston Red Sox team when it comes to just the inability to give up runs, especially with these guys on the mound. But again, the reason we're having this conversation is due to the trade value Tyler O'Neill may have this offseason. Now, shout out to SportsRack not social media, but SportsRack, the website. They went out, and obviously we get all of the contract information from there. At least I do. I feel like it's the most accurate and the most visually pleasing to look at and actually break down and understand what you're looking at. Now, we know next year he will be an unrestricted free agent, Tyler O'Neill, that is. And again, we looked at the numbers he showed this past year, and it says on average, an annual salary of what he should be getting based off the calculations they took in. And again, they broke down comparable players like Brandon Nimmo, Mitch Haniger, Andrew Benintendi, as well as Ian Happ in the years that they had that were that you could compare to the year Tyler O'Neill just had. And based off the numbers they received following those years in contracts, it seems like he's going to be making somewhere between $16 million a year, and he's going to make make a total somewhere between $88 to $90 million in the total of that contract. And again, that's where the question comes from Mr. McCovey, reading this article. Where did I put it? Right here. The reunion with a $90 million slugger. Yes, Tyler O'Neill is probably going to get paid handsomely this offseason, if not next season when he walks to free agency. But again, it's going to take some time to get there. Is Boston going to hold on to him? Are they going to look to trade him for the value it seems like he is just really acquired after this past season? Now, I do have more stats following Tyler O'Neill, and again, when we look at the batting, he's in the top percentails amongst other players. He's very, very good. Obviously, if we look at the fielding, he's not an elite talent, but again, his arm strength is up there. If the ball does land to him on a short hop, he's probably cutting down the runner if he tries to steal an extra base on him due to the arm strength. But really, in the outfield, besides that, the speed is not elite. It's just above average, if you will. But when you look at the batting, he is flat out he's very good at hitting the baseball. There's no other way around it. His barrel percentage is in the top of the percentiles when it comes to the league, as well as a bunch of other offensive factors. He is very, very good when it comes to batting, and he's not a liability in the field. You cannot classify him, I don't think you can classify him as a liability when it comes to defending and playing the outfield. Again, the speed is not horrible. He can definitely cover some ground. He's not Jarren Duran fast, but again, he can cover some ground in the outfield. He's not playing center. And again, he's fitting in well, and with the arm strength, the ability to cut players down, going towards the plate, as well as going to third or second, trying to extend those singles to doubles and doubles to triples, he's not a liability. He's actually above average, and he can cover a lot of ground, almost in the top percentile when it comes to arm strength. Again, he's a very, very good player, and because of the amount of games he played this past season, it seems like he's going to have an absurd amount of value compared to what Boston has been paying him for the last year and some change. Now, obviously, this is the first year for Mr. O'Neill not in St. Louis, so obviously maybe he's finding a rhythm in Boston. Are you going to send him elsewhere? Is he going to fall apart? Is he going to still feel at home? Again, we won't know. It comes down to the player and how they can situate themselves at that quick of a pace. We don't know how that's going to play out. We can say Tyler O'Neill, based off a resume, he did play pretty damn well this past year for Boston in his first year, not in St. Louis. So that is massive for the Boston Red Sox in the sense of trade value. And the last thing I'm going to break down in the sense of stats before we get to the rest of the article and close out this video is just the games played. I know this is an interesting way to look at this graphic, but again, the ranking obviously goes by position. We all know that. But then if we look at games played, which would be, where would we get? Right, games, right here. 126 for Connor Wong. And if you keep working down, you get under to David Hamilton, Tristan Haas. Obviously, we know we missed a lot of games this year, only played in 63. But then we see Trevor Story, Vaughn Grisham. Those guys where we thought we were going to have big years from these guys, they just weren't able to play in as many games. Obviously, Story went down early this year. Once again, it was not what we wanted to see. He was another right-handed bat playing in the infield at shortstop, a veteran who has been established in the MLB for a long, long time, and obviously he went down the injury. And then obviously Grisham, another infielder. He's very, very young. He came over in the trade, the transaction, if you will, for Chris Sale going to Boston. He only played in 31 games. Obviously, we're going to need to see a lot more than that. Obviously, both of those guys aren't going to be playing a lot of the outfield, but again, they are key pieces in the infield, and because of that, we haven't been able to see Rafaela play a lot of the outfield because we don't have the ability and the luxury to play players like Grisham, players like Story, being able to move Rafaela out to the outfield more games than we will. Obviously, we saw him play the outfield a bunch this past season, but again, it wasn't to the number that we could possibly see him play if Tyler O'Neill wasn't holding up that left fielder spot or really any outfield spot. But because of the production, we didn't really want to turn away from it, and I can't really blame the Boston Red Sox for that. Now we'll get back to the article and break down the rest of it as it goes on to say Boston was very left-handed. heavy throughout the 2024 season. A big reason for this is that the players who we were expected to play a large role were unavailable due to injury. Both Trevor Story and Vaughn Grisham, who we just broke down, missed time and changed the game for the Boston Red Sox lineup. And obviously, we just broke that down. We didn't get to see Rafael get moved all over the field like we probably would have if we had the luxury of putting Grisham at second and Story at short, or vice versa, as they both play those positions. And again, obviously, Grisham can play third as well if we absolutely needed him to. And I believe Story could do it as well. Obviously, they're dominantly short and second stop players. But again, they have versatility. They can really play anywhere on the left side of the diamond, including second base. And they just allow so much more flexibility. Rafael, with his flexibility, you can move him to the outfield, anywhere in the outfield, whether it be left, center, or right field for the Boston Red Sox. Obviously, Abreu's dominantly playing in the outfield. But again, these youngsters that have all this upside, it just seems very, very interesting that they have this opportunity to possibly make a move this offseason and really switch things up and bring them back to the idea of possibly just building around these young players. I'm quickly going to highlight this depth chart one more time for the Boston Red Sox before closing this out. But again, if we move Tyler O'Neill, just think if Rafael was no longer the starting second baseman and the starting left fielder, and then we had a youngster in Vaughn Grisham, or possibly even a veteran in Trevor Story to put into the two-hole, or not the two-hole, but then again, the second base position, things would be very interesting. Grisham and Story are both right-handed bats. They would add another position for a right-handed bat in this Boston Red Sox lineup that we desperately know that we need. And again, if that is something we can do, and we can put faith in both Grisham and Story to play more than 30 games next season like they didn't last year. Again, unfortunate injuries, just unlucky, if you will. And if things don't go that way next season and Tyler O'Neill is moved, we could see a lump sum comeback in pitching prospects or just overall pitching talent that could really propel this Boston Red Sox team going into next year, really with a boost they didn't have this past year. But again, maybe we lose some pop at the plate due to losing 31 home runs from Tyler O'Neill. But again, Rafael has shown some pop at the plate. Obviously, Abreu isn't a monster when it comes to hitting for power. But again, Casas, if he plays more, Story has some pop still. And then obviously Devers and others on this Boston Red Sox team are going to be able to put the ball over the yard, especially over that right field wall. And again, as long as you hit the monster, you're getting two bags. With the amount of speed on this Red Sox team, whether it be Rafael, O'Neill for that matter, Story has decent speed, Duran, Abreu, these guys are going to be able to get around the bases. We just need to see a few more right-handed bats, a little bit more pitching, and a little bit more pop. I can't wait to see what the Boston Red Sox organization does to deal with this situation that they have, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out. Thanks for watching this episode of Red Sox Digest, and I will see you guys on the next one.